I'm James, I'm the Sales Director at Artemis Marketing. I'm joined by Justin today, who is our Technical and Research Director. And whilst our clients here at Artemis will vary obviously in what they do, there are some similarities in that some will effectively be trying to drive customers through their front door, or will be trying to book appointments, whilst others will be selling online via their e-commerce platforms. But equally, we'll have clients who will be service or product based. So today we're just going to discuss a couple of examples of those and some of their successes that we've helped them achieve. So Justin, do you want to give us an example of a client we've perhaps dealt with, what type of service they were offering, and any of the initial challenges they perhaps had?
Sure. So one of the clients that we've chosen to discuss today, they are a surveyor. So when they came to us, I think it was about 10 years ago now, it's quite a long time. So they were just a small business run by a single person. I think he had maybe a couple of staff. And he came to us, no huge sort of ambitions, but he wanted to grow the business and he just wanted to expand his reach a little bit. You know, they were very focused on a very small area. And when they first came to us as a client, we said, well, actually, we can probably help you to expand into many other areas in terms of actual geographic areas. And, you know, a lot of surveyors, they tend to generate their leads maybe, you know, through their acquaintance, you know, so other sources, not necessarily the web. And in fact, many surveyors, when at that time, didn't really generate a lot of leads online, and they weren't used to generating leads online. And so when he approached us, we immediately said, oh, actually, we can see there's lots of opportunity. And your website, in those days, his website was more like a brochure website than a website really set up to target specific keywords and to actually generate some traffic and then generate some leads from that traffic. And so we were able to actually expand the reach of his website quite a lot in the early days.
I think the thing you're mentioning there in relation to we almost told them about the opportunity within the market. How did we as an agency kind of come to that conclusion?
Yeah, so I think, you know, whenever we start with a client, the first thing is that we won't take on a client if we feel that we can't make a difference to their business. So, and a lot of the time, you know, we can have a look with the tools that we've got and the knowledge that we've got of different markets and sectors of how people search online and what they're looking for, and, you know, how you can, especially the keywords that you need to target. And so this example of this client, when he came to us, he sort of really just ranked for his brand name. So his website was just optimized for his name, and not really for, you know, a surveyor in this particular part of the country or something. And so when we started looking, we're like, well, okay, you're based here in Sussex. Well, Sussex has lots of locations, you know, lots of areas within Sussex, but you're not really targeting any of them. And you could provide your service to all of those areas, absolutely no problem. And so when we start identifying those opportunities through the different keyword tools, maybe what their competitors are ranking for, and we can see what they're coming up for in search as well, then we can start to create a plan for that client, which is what we did with them. We said, actually, this is not a simple thing, but actually we can quite easily just expand your reach across more areas of Sussex and not just the little area where you're actually based.
Nice. And whilst we'd hope that it would be nice and straightforward and easy when you're looking at kind of then expanding their market and getting their brand out there, were there any unexpected obstacles that came up, or let's say challenges that we had to overcome at that point?
Yeah, I mean, there's always challenges, because one of the biggest challenges we had with them was that they weren't used to generating leads from their website.
Okay.
And it sounds a bit weird, but you know, when we talk about SEO, we're not just talking about, adding content and optimizing pages. We're talking about the whole thing. So it's like, okay, this is your website, how it's set up, how it generates, how it displays your business to the general public, because this is like your shop window to the world, essentially. And so we look at the whole process, and part of that process obviously is that when a lead comes in, how you deal with the lead. And if you're not used to dealing with web leads, then it's a new experience, because web leads, it's the same person may have contacted you on your website and contacted another one through another website. So because their site was originally set up like a brochure site, as soon as we started expanding it and setting it up properly, he started generating leads pretty quickly. And so as we saw leads coming through, we'd call him and say, oh, did you see that lead coming through? And he said, yeah, I've seen it. I was going to call him tomorrow. And we're like, no, you've got to call them now. You can't wait until tomorrow, because they might have contacted somebody else or various other, surveyors. And so we also had to train them how to deal with all of a sudden getting all these leads through the web, which they weren't used to having, because their leads would come through recommendations, referrals, and stuff like that before. Yeah. So it was a bit of an easy thing for them to handle. But when you get a new, fresh, cold lead coming through, you know what it's like. You've got to answer it. You can't leave it for the next day, because then they might have forgotten about you and they've moved on. So one of the biggest challenges we had was really actually, we knew what we had to do and we started implementing it, but it was working with the client to go, this is now how you actually handle the leads. And it sounds a bit bizarre, but the way we handle SEO is not just optimizing pages. We help the business to generate the leads, manage the leads, and and make sure that the whole process works.
Nice. And actually, building off of that, are there any particular strategies that we adopt? I know, I guess it won't be one size fits all, especially when it comes to SEO, but is there a strategy that we would have looked at for this client?
Yeah, so I mean, they're quite an interesting example, because a business like that it starts off quite small, but they actually offer, a surveyor offers different services for different types of issues, or whether they're doing conveyancing related work, or whether it's party wall work, whatever it is. But they have a range of services that they offer, which they can offer in multiple areas. So sometimes the biggest challenges with that is that you want to have different services targeted to all these different areas. But you can't create a service page for every single area that you want to focus on. So it's how you then sort of grow that website, build out the sort of the reach of it, to be able to target all these services across the county as such, and it's a bit of a fine balance, because you can overdo it. You can end up with what we call like cookie cutter pages. So all these pages look really similar, because you're sort of saying the same thing, but for someone in Brighton or someone in Chichester, it's like it's the same content. So the challenge with that is how you differentiate all these different services, area pages, that sort of thing, so that you don't trip a filter with Google, it doesn't look spammy, and it looks natural. And also for the user, when they land on a page, it doesn't look like it's made for SEO. It's actually a useful page, it's helpful for that person in that area who's looking for that particular service. And with this client, we were very successful in doing all of that sort of expanding of the website and expanding of the reach of it. And it worked really well for them.
Nice. Well, you've used the word successful now, so let's get on to the fun part, which is the results that have come off the back of it. And let's also look at any long-term results off the back of that. So how did they do once they started kind of working with us?
Yeah, I mean, they were quite a small business when they started with us. It was very, very small, and they grew very quickly. And this is actually sometimes a problem. So we've had it in the past where, we've taken on some clients where all of a sudden where the websites had the potential to generate a lot more business for them, and we've made it happen. And sometimes it can happen quite quickly, and the business can't handle it. And in fact, we had a client leave us because they said, well, it's too much. They couldn't handle the number of inquiries coming through, and they didn't want to employ a lot more staff. So the client that we're talking about today, for example, he did want to expand the business and he did want to grow it. And in fact, he expanded it so much, he eventually sold it. And during the process of growing the business, I remember that he sent us a photo of a McLaren that he bought himself.
Nice.
And he was really grateful for because it was all through the website. It was all
Yeah.
because of the website that he'd been able to buy himself a McLaren. And we were really happy for him that, that we'd helped him realize a dream.
Yeah.
And he said, don't tell my staff, because he was a bit embarrassed that he bought it, Like, well, you've earned it,
Yeah.
you've worked hard, you've built this business, you've grown this business, and now you're sort of reaping the rewards. And obviously he then sold it in the end as well, because it had grown so much. So they were a client for a number of years with us. I think in total about 10 years, that since they were with us. So it does take time.
Yeah.
It can be quick, but it also depends on how quick the business wants to grow.
Yeah.
So we'll try and manage it now. So whereas in the past we just went, give them all the leads they want. But
Yeah.
now we're like, okay, how many leads can you handle? Because that's quite an important point as well.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure they, because SEO can take time. So sometimes it can take time for leads to come through, and other times they can come in quite fast.
Yeah.
So they're two different challenges.
Okay.
But for this client, he was happy to handle an influx of leads and grow quite quickly,
Nice.
which is, and it worked very well for him.
So would you say that's the core learning we've taken away from dealing with that client when we help other businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of our strong points is how closely we work with our clients
Yep.
to really understand their business. And I'm not just saying that because I know everyone says that, but we really do. We get into the, real detail of like, okay, what sort of leads do you want? How many leads? What sort of quality? For example, you can manage the types of leads that come through a site. So if you want less leads, you make it more complicated for people to get in touch. Longer forms, for example, you ask more questions before they get in touch with you.
Yep.
If you want more leads and you've got a sales team that can handle lots of leads, and then you don't care about the quality because you'll filter them on calls, you make forms short and you put lots of calls to action, and you just make sure they get lots of leads, and then it's up to them if they convert them or not. So, but one of the things that we do really well is work really closely with the client to really understand what they need. Do they need phone calls? Do they need form fills? Do they want WhatsApp calls?
Yep.
WhatsApp messages? What sort of leads, inquiries, or online sales are they actually really after that actually have the value that they want?
Yep.
Because all leads are not the same.
No, and I get that. And almost going back to the start to a degree, so we understand with this business, they were looking to grow, and they perhaps didn't have a presence at the minute. If there was someone watching this video in a similar scenario who wanted to expand their market, expand the volume of clients they deal with themselves, what advice would you give them by picking up the phone and calling us?
That's a good question. I mean, we do have to think as well. I mean, the example we're talking about, we started with them 10 years ago.
Yep.
And the world has changed in 10 years, and the competition has increased significantly.
Yeah.
And it is tougher. It is hard for any business now. And it does need a much more concentrated effort to start with a new business. And as long as they've got some sort of presence existing, so it's harder for an actual startup. There's a real delay with SEO, and we never hide the fact that there's a delay. You can't just appear on the scene and be successful. It's like opening a shop tomorrow in the high street and you think you're going to be really busy.
Yeah.
It doesn't really happen. You've got to build up your reputation, and it's the same online. Google wants to know, can they trust you? What do you do? Where are you? Who are you? And all this stuff. And so it does take time to build up a reputation. If you want to have significant growth, that's where we can really help. Even smaller businesses, we deal with tiny little businesses to very big businesses, and we can help anybody. It doesn't, and often they say, "Oh, have you got experience in this industry?" It's like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The fundamentals are the same, and the way we approach websites, it works for any industry. We can help any business to grow, or we can help any business to maintain their current level. So even if they don't want to grow, but they want to make sure they're okay and they want to carry on as they are, then that's also an option, and we can do that. So no problem at all.
And I think kind of final question from my side is looking at at a business like this, in this example, who's got this service and wanting to expand and grow, why was SEO the best step for them to take rather than the likes of Meta or Google advertising, etc.?
Because we convinced them so.
Okay.
That's the reality. One of the biggest obstacles I think we often face is that if somebody hasn't had the experience of having a successful search presence, they don't know what they can get out of it. They don't realise how beneficial it can be. And in fact, we often have, although we do pay per click for clients, we know that the quality of leads that come in through organic search are always much better. The paid department wouldn't like me saying that, but they're always high quality and paid campaigns, because I don't know whether it's because people know that you've paid to be there. Maybe the quality goes down a little bit. But unless you've had that experience with it, or you might have had a bad experience with SEO, which happens a lot. So you've tried it. Maybe you've used an agency or you've done it yourself. You think, oh, this SEO stuff doesn't work. And that's really sad, because if you get it right, it can be phenomenal. And I'm not just saying that, it can be. We've been doing this for a very long time. We do it for ourselves as well. We've got our own websites, our own online businesses, and it just works, and it works really, really well. But if you've had a bad experience or you've never had that experience, it's quite hard to say, okay, I need to invest quite a bit of money here and be a little bit patient. But there's a really good return at the end, and it can be very long lasting. Social media is very different, because social media, it's a bit like paid search. You have to be on it all the time. If you stop paying for your ads, it stops. Whilst SEO can help you forever. We are, for many of our clients, their sole marketing cost. That's it. They just spend money with us to help them grow and be stable and get that stable presence online.